We have standing by. I'm not sure where he's calling in from. Jeff Radway from Skymint. How you doing today, Jeff?
Good, Mike. How are you?
Good. So where in the world are you? I think you're somewhere in the Lansing area, aren't you?
Yeah. So talking to you from our home office today in Dimondale, which is just outside of Lansing.
Okay. So again, I put my glasses on. I take them off because of the lights. But you want to talk about celebrating Drink a Beer Day on Monday, September 28th. I know Rick Thompson is going to be very interested in that one. And you also want to talk about the reopening of your Nunica location near Grand Rapids on October 8th. So take it away.
Right. Well, thank you for having me. Yeah, so we're excited to talk about our collaboration with Shorts Brewing. We have Shorts-inspired flavors in our cannabis gummies. So we have three flavors right now. We're coming out with a fourth flavor called Mule. So yeah, we would encourage people to both enjoy a Shorts beer, but also to try a Shorts edible through our Jolly Edible line. So super excited about that. And then as you mentioned, our Nunica store is transitioning from medical to recreational on October 8th. So the west side of the state's been very welcoming to our Skymint store brand, and really looking forward to servicing more and more customers out of that location.
Well, I one of the things when I was approached by your PR man, Jordan, I've had really bad luck with edibles, probably because I've been at parties and. So I said, before I get you on the show, send me some of those because I want to see what sort of impact they have. And it was actually, it was impressed. I mean, it was a lot more mellow. I mean, these party ones that I get, didn't work out too good. But, and I could taste, in the Shorts ones, I could taste the beer sort of aftertaste after I chewed on it. So,
Right.
And they were controllable kind of a buzz. I mean, I hate where you go comatose at a party. This was just sort of mellow, so.
Yeah. No, that's great to hear. I also am not one who, my first choice is not to use an edible. But I know a lot of people have that same concern, right? Nobody wants to end up in the fetal position or comatose.
Done that, yes.
From their edibles. So yeah, no, our edibles are 10 milligram doses. They're also highly homogenized, so they're really consistent through the process. And that's what we hear from consumers is they love the taste, but they also love the effect. And it's a little easier to kind of meter the dose, if you will, if you're not just comatose on the first one or half of one. So that's good to hear.
Yeah. I remember I was at this, and I'd never really done it much before. I was at this backyard party a couple of years ago, and a friend of mine gave me a bonbon, and about 45 minutes later, oh my God, so I think that was a lot more than 10 milligrams.
Right. Yeah, that's I think one of the best things about moving to a regulated legal market, right, is that you get consistency, you get quality, you get repeatability, and those are all the things that we're really striving for in the manufacturing, right? I think that's less of a case, say, with flower or pre-roll, but certainly we've all had that experience where you get something from a buddy or a friend, and 10 hours later, you're wishing you didn't try it.
Yes, absolutely. Been there, done that.
Right.
Rick, you want to weigh in?
Well, you mentioned that you have a new edible coming out in your Shorts collaboration. That's the Mule. That doesn't actually taste like a pack animal's fur, right? I mean, because I'm not familiar with beer to know what a mule is, but if I saw that, I might be hesitant to purchase that product. I'm just saying.
Right. Well, if you know anything about Shorts, right, they're super creative on naming, and the front of the packaging looks like a copper mug, like you get with a Moscow Mule. So it's flavored with ginger and lime. It's super refreshing. But yeah, I'm with you. I don't want something that tastes like an alpaca fur or something. So.
Oh, alpaca! That's your next flavor combo right there.
For sure.
Yeah, I just discovered ginger beer recently. I'd never tried it before, and it's actually quite good. So That's
Yep.
where the Moscow Mule thing. Then I had to look it up on the line to see what you blend that with, and that's where the Moscow Mule,
Yep.
main part of it is. So
Yep. Absolutely.
the other
Yep.
thing I wanted to talk about is I think you've opened, or with your Nunica facility, you will be opening your 10th provisioning center in Michigan. Is that correct?
So we actually have 10 open right now.
Okay.
We're opening our 11th early next month in East Lansing. Nunica will be one of our last medical stores to transition to recreational. And then we still have a medical store in Mount Morris and one in Newaygo. So we're close to having all of them available for adult use. But yeah, we'll have 11 by year end.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Rick, you know more about this than I. I don't think anybody else has that many stores in the state, do they?
Well, Red, White, and Bloom would like to tell you that they've got a whole bunch going on, but that's not necessarily a reality yet. That's in a planning stage. So the Diamonddale facility that you're broadcasting from, Jeff, is just monstrously huge, though, right? I mean, record-setting when it was constructed.
Yeah, no, it's pretty good size. We have 3 facilities right now that are cultivating, one processing. This is, of course, our flagship cultivation facility. So it's about 70,000 square feet all in.
Wow.
We'll be expanding it this coming year. So we're really excited to, the expansion is primarily to service our wholesale customers. We have plenty of capacity for our stores, but we also wholesale to about 200 stores in Michigan. So really excited to expand on that and hoping to have it done by middle of the year next year.
And you're a multi-state operator, too. You have facilities in other states other than Michigan, true?
Not yet, but that's in the works. Yeah, we had a deal for Florida several months back. It was actually late last year, but we walked away from that. It wasn't the right deal for us. But yeah, no, we're looking to be in some other states soon.
Now, one of the things we've talked about on previous shows, and whether it happens in Michigan remains to be seen, is an Amsterdam-style cannabis cafe. I took a fact-finding trip to Amsterdam 3 years ago, purely for news purposes only, and went into one of those cafes. And it's like being in a tobacco shop here. That's the equivalent. Same sort of, setup. You go in and instead of asking them for what kind of cigar will I want, they have. God, it was just under glass there. You could buy it. It was like 20 euros for 2 grams or something, and you could try a lot of different things and that sort of thing. Is that something you have any interest in getting into later on, if we're allowed to do that?
Yeah, so we're looking at it, right? First of all, I love Amsterdam, and I love the idea of coffee and cannabis, and was there a couple of years ago myself. So what a great city. As cannabis becomes more mainstream, right? Our theory has always been that we need to make it more accessible through modernization, if you will, of both consumption, retail shopping, delivery, et cetera. So the more that stores look like a 21st century retail environment, the more that the consumption premises look like a place where you would go have a glass of wine or a beer, because we think look, most people feel comfortable in that environment, and it's known. And it's readily utilized. So we would consider it. What we're concerned about is that if there are too many regulations and restrictions put on it, it feels contrived, right? Like we've heard of places with timers where you get 20 minutes to sit down at the table, and that feels contrived and rushed in a legal environment where we can all consume legally in our homes or with friends and family, obviously pre-COVID. We think that a consumption lounge just has to make sense from a regulatory standpoint. But yeah, no, we would definitely be interested.
Rick?
We talked to Attorney Scott Roberts on last week's program, and we discussed social lounges, social consumption lounges, and the biggest impediment there is the pathway to profitability. With the physical separation that the Marijuana Regulatory Agency is requiring between those buildings and distribution points, it seems a difficult row to hoe. Yeah. So perhaps, one of those innovative groups like yourself will come up with a model that actually works and that people can emulate across the state.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no, we think it's the future, but it has to feel and look and operate more like a bar.
Yeah, pretty much. Or cross between a coffee shop and a tobacco shop. I mean, where
Right.
you would have a good cup of coffee or maybe some food,
Right.
all sorts of things. They're just like a European cafe.
Yep. Totally agree.
Yeah, it's hard to get people to sit down for a while if you're not providing them food and beverage. And I know the Marijuana Regulatory Agency has some regulations restricting food and beverage distribution at the proposed social consumption lounges that perhaps is going to need to be tweaked in order to make that reality in Michigan.
Yeah, totally agree. Look, in Michigan is also a bit of a unique environment, right? Because we're more than a decade into cannabis consumption, right? At some level. If this were, say, Pennsylvania or Ohio or Illinois, where there's still the novelty in the first couple of years of regulation, people might get together just for the novelty of being able to smoke a pre-roll or use a vape pen in public. But we think Michigan's a lot more sophisticated than that, and it's really going to require the right environment to make it viable. But I think you made the right point that you can certainly open them up, but then is there really a commercial profitable pathway there? We're not sure about that.
Right?
Yeah.
It's possible those tasting lounges will be opened as accessories to chain stores like Skymint, in order to take advantage of the profitability represented by the distribution chain, while the tasting lounges are actually trying to get established and find a better way.
Yep, we agree, totally agree.
So let's talk a little bit more about where Sky Mint is headed in Michigan. We'll worry about the other states later. So you said you're expanding your grow facility. I'm assuming you're also going to be expanding your provisioning centers.
Yeah, we are. So again, we've got another store to open this year in East Lansing. We've got another 8 or 9 stores in the construction pipeline. And we should have another, call it 4 to 5 secured by the end of the year. So we're on a pathway to about another 15 stores opening next year.
Wow.
So we hope to be in all major markets. We would consider, obviously, we're in Ann Arbor in the Lansing area, and Grand Rapids, West Michigan. We'll be in Southeast Michigan, Metro Detroit. We're hopeful to be in Detroit as well. We're in mid Michigan, and we go up as high as Traverse City. So yeah, no, we're super excited about the landscape in Michigan, and there's a lot of opportunities.
Well, there's a lot of Oh, I'm sorry, Ray, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, until Detroit comes up with an adult use program, does it even make sense to open a medical only center in the city of Detroit? It seems like they're shooting themselves in the foot and restraining commerce at this point.
Yeah, no, from where we sit, we don't think that it does. We're not interested in opening dispensaries unless there's a clear pathway towards adult use.
If certain communities are only authorizing medical facilities, or that previously authorized medical facilities have to go back and then add additional ordinance language to expand that to include the adult use business types.
Right. No, exactly. We're going through that in Traverse City right now, where there were 13 medical dispensaries licensed. They came out with an adult use ordinance, and they're only allowing 4, which we think is actually a violation of the precedent that's been set in other municipalities. So there is a lawsuit active right now in Traverse City. We're hopeful that they do expand from 4 to 13. We think it's pretty onerous for us, but also all the other businesses that applied and became licensed for medical, only to be told that we'll have an adult use ordinance, but you won't be you won't necessarily be considered for it. So that doesn't seem right in our view.
One of the ways that other states have created better laws is by litigation, unfortunately. The state believes they have a good policy, business believes that it's in violation, and the courts agree with business. And then all of a sudden, the state has to make a change.
Yep. Completely agree. And unfortunately, litigation is just part of it, right? It's still a new and messy industry as it's forming, and the judicial system is going to be part of it for a long time.
Where do you see everything in Michigan, say, in 5 years? I know you don't have a crystal ball, but everyone tries to do those long-term projections. What are your projections?
In terms of the overall market or relative?
Yeah, overall market, number of stores. I mean, we're going to get to a point where I wouldn't say oversaturated, but I've seen all the long list of people applying for licenses, and there's going to be a lot of competition.
Yes, no, I agree with that. So our perspective is that the pendulum will swing towards saturation and over licensing, if you will, and then it will swing back, right? It will be difficult for operators who aren't sophisticated, who aren't professional, who don't have a point of view about what differentiates their assortment, their stores, their service, whatever they may do to set themselves apart. And frankly, it's not only about being vertical. We do believe there is a place for retailers to be only retailers, but they have to define themselves as being good at something. And they can be good at several things, certainly. But so we think that the market will probably oversaturate, get maybe 400 or 500 stores, maybe even more than that. And then it will rationalize and probably come back around 350 to 375. All of that being said, the overarching business environment, we think probably pushes up around $3 to $3.5 billion in Michigan in 5 years.
Impressive.
So it's a good-sized market.
Rick, how does that compare, say, to the big states like Oregon? Well, Oregon's not bigger, but California certainly. What are they doing?
Well, California's market oftentimes is estimated because each individual county tallies their own totals as opposed to having a statewide base. But clearly California is the big leader. But there's no one in the United States that has an established marketplace the way that Michigan does. As Jeff mentioned, with the 10-year history in the medical program, we've really trained our customer base about using retail. And they're not hesitant to do that as they were in 9, 10, 11, and 12 when we first were launching retail stores. So that puts us at the apex of the Midwest, almost, I mean, the apex east of the Mississippi until New York and Pennsylvania and Ohio get their stuff together.
Yeah, that's going to take a while. So I assume, Jeff, with all your expansion, that you must be hiring, right?
We are hiring. I'm glad you brought that up. So we're just over 350 people strong right now.
Wow.
And we're perpetually hiring. We're hiring on the retail, on manufacturing, in our management ranks. We're hiring in marketing and product development. So yeah, we'll be adding another, call it about 100 positions right around by January, February of next year. And we should be adding another 300-400 here in the next 12 months.